welcome to today's webinar. I'm Elena Trueworthy, the Acting Commissioner at the Connecticut Office of Early Childhood. It's so wonderful to welcome you here today to today's webinar entitled Showing Up or Showing Out: How Professional Learning Promotes Self-Awareness and Improves How One Gives to Others. You know, these behavioral health webinars are an opportunity for all of us to come together to learn, to share, and to grow. Early childhood professionals are constantly giving to others in so many different ways, and it's important to be aware of how you are showing up in these spaces, and professional learning helps us to do that. Participating in these opportunities, right, promotes our self-awareness and improves skills and knowledge. I like to think that I am on a continuous learning journey, since there is always something new for me to learn. Every day, I'm getting taught something new, and that helps me grow as a person and as a professional. I would like to thank our wonderful panel of speakers and OEC staff who are here today to share their vast experience and knowledge. It's always important that we hear from multiple voices and perspectives on these issues, because we each might connect with those around us a little bit differently. And these webinars are a great example of collaboration across partners, staff, and families. And with that, it is now my pleasure to introduce the keynote speaker. Louise Evans is the founder and director of the 5 Chairs Project. She is a behavioral coach, a corporate trainer and facilitator, and speaker. Since childhood, Louise has had a determination and enthusiasm for life. Born in England and living in various countries throughout Europe, she settled in Florence, Italy, which she now considers her spiritual home. Her professional journey began in educational organizations offering language and communication training to the corporate world. Her move to Italy marked the beginning of her life as an entrepreneur and as a serious world traveler. Her passion for exploring other cultures inspired her to specialize in cross-cultural diversity management and global leadership. Personal development has always been central to Louise's life. Louise's passion is to work with the human side of organizations. She believes deeply in people's ability to grow and transform. Louise, thank you so much for being here, and really looking forward to what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eleanor. And thank you to all of you. This is a real pleasure for me to be with you. I have to say, I deeply admire the work that you do, the caring that you give every day. And I'm always thinking, you know, we're caring out so much. The desperate need that you have of being cared for. And I think it's this is a chance for me to share with you something that I have created called the 5 Chairs, which I hope will help you in many ways bring the very best of yourself into the world as you're working in this wonderful field of early childhood, challenging field. But also that it will help you take care of yourself and also the wonderful work that you do. Now, I'm going to ask you to be participative, and I will from time to time ask you a question. So please feel free to write your answers in chat. Okay? Now, I'm going to share this with you. This is my model called the 5 Chairs. Now, as you can see, there are 5 different chairs with different colors. Now, these chairs have 5 different names. They have represent 5 different types of behaviors. They have animal metaphors to go with them. And they have names, and we're going to discover them together. What we're going to do is we're going to take a situation that might happen in your life. And the situation is this, and we will see how you could react in 5 different ways with the 5 chairs to a sort of trigger situation. I want you to imagine that you are talking to a parent, a father, and you're having a conversation about his son. And the father comes and says to you, "You're not doing enough for our child." Now that is the trigger. You are not doing enough for the child. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how you could react to that trigger in 5 different ways. Let's look at the first chair. Now, I will react from this red chair, and I want you to watch me. And then afterwards, I want you to describe my behavior in chat. Okay, and then we'll reveal what the chair represents. And then I'll also show you some slides. Okay, so the trigger is, "You're not doing enough for our child." Now, when I do this, you will see what's going on in my mind as I hear that trigger. Right. What do you mean you are not doing? Now, I'm not saying this to the father, but it's what I'm thinking, okay? What do you mean you're not doing enough for our child? I think that is completely unfair. I'm already spending far too much time with their child. You know, I mean, he's so undisciplined. I'm not surprised now that I've met his father the way he is. Excuse me. But it's very easy, isn't it? Coming here, laying the blame on me, criticizing, not understanding. I mean, really? Maybe he should take his role as a father more seriously. I mean, how ungrateful. Just criticism, honestly. Now, can you write in chat what you're seeing? Furiosa, molesta, yes, judgmental. Yeah, absolutely judgmental, excuse me. Very defensive, yeah, quickly taking defensive. Well, this person is treating me badly, reactive, shocked, judgmental, fantastic, wonderful. Now, can you imagine what animal this could be? Can you think of a metaphor? Is in an animal form, a lion, not much smaller. It's an animal that lives in the savannah, smaller than a lion. It's a scavenger. It tends to eat what's left of the big cat, when the big cats kill. It's a smaller animal, not a bird, tiger, hyena, almost. I'll give you a clue. Look at this here. What's this, do you think? Not a hyena, not a tiger, smaller. It's almost a coyote. Yes, well done. It's a jackal. Fantastic. Okay, so now we are in the jackal chair with that response. Now let's go and have a look, shall we? We'll go and look at the slides here and talk about what the jackal represents. Here we go. So that is the trigger. You're not doing enough for my child. So we have 5 possible reactions. Now, I reacted from the jackal chair, the red chair, which is the attack chair. Now, it's interesting. The quote for this is from Carl Rogers, the American psychologist, who said, "Our first reaction to most statements we hear from other people is immediate evaluation, a judgment rather than understanding." And this is so often what we do. We see somebody coming towards us, we hear somebody, we go, and we judge them. Now, the problem is that the more we judge, the less time we have to love people, as Mother Teresa says. But very often when we are under stress, for example, we have jackal behaviors. So this is judging and criticizing people, or complaining about situations, just like the father is complaining in this situation, or punishing. We get angry, so we punish people, or we ignore people and we exclude them, or we think, well, I'm right and you're wrong, so we're superior. We gossip, and we blame and we shame. Now, these are all behaviors that we all have, especially when we're feeling uncomfortable. But the problem is that any behavior like this blocks collaboration, and it has a toxic impact. So what we need to try and do is reduce the amount of attack behaviors that we have. Now that is the red chair. Let's now move on to the second chair. So I'm going to come out and we're going to now look at the yellow chair. Now, again, the situation is the same. I am being provoked by a father who says to me, "You're not doing enough for my child." Let's see what happens in the yellow chair. So, oh no, he's obviously not happy with me and with my services, and he's telling me that I'm not competent enough. This is really embarrassing. But maybe he's right. Maybe, I mean, I have tried everything with his child, but I just don't know what to do anymore. I mean, it feels like no matter what I do, I just can't succeed. I mean, his son is difficult, but maybe he's right. Maybe I'm no good at this sort of thing. Maybe somebody else could manage the situation much better than me. And I just don't have the skills to do this. So, maybe I should leave my job. Maybe I'm not cut out to do this at all. So yeah, I'm seeing self-doubt, confusion, not feeling adequate enough, feeling guilty, absolutely victim as well. Indeed, well done. Okay, so what is the animal here? What is the insecure? Exactly. What is the animal? It's a small animal. And when it feels attacked, it curls up, insecure, exactly, dramatic. Yeah. Turtle, not the turtle, it's a nice one. Fox, no, not mouse. Hedgehog, well done, Stefan. Exactly. So here we are in the hedgehog chair. Let's go and look at that in the slides and see what we're talking about here. Now, what is our attitude when we're in the hedgehog chair? The hedgehog chair is the self-doubt chair. And the quote here is, "Nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent." Now, very often, we doubt ourselves and we feel inferior to other people. And that happens when we have there's an inner voice in our mind which is saying things to us continuously, like, "I'm out of my depth here. This is just too hard. I don't know what to do. Why does it always happen to me? I'm not competent enough for this. I'm not skilled enough." This things that we say to ourselves when we're feeling down. That's just the way I am. I can't change. Here we're sort of in victim mood. And here again, I give up. Nobody understands me. Nobody understands me. Okay, so this is something, again, which happens to us, but what do we do? Let me ask you, what do you do when you're feeling like this? How do you help yourselves when you're feeling like this, when you're feeling down? What do you cry? Yes, exactly. Your thoughts are not facts. Yes, you remember, my thoughts are not facts. I pray. Exactly. Yes, I mean, there are times when we just forget, don't we? Change environment, think of something positive. Yeah, we sometimes forget when we're down. We forget of how many resources we actually have. Meditating, supervision, you are demotivated, your self-esteem goes down. Exactly. And this is where maybe we can ask for the help of a friend or ask each other to support ourselves, because it happens to us. But it's about how can we quickly take care of ourselves. And somebody says, "I walk inside the infant room and get unconditional love from them." How beautiful is that? So it's about taking care of ourselves when we're feeling like this, because the job is very challenging. Deep breathing is another great way. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, now we're moving on. We're moving now into the next chair, which is the green chair. And again, let's see what happens here. We're with the same trigger, which is, "You are not doing enough for my son." Okay, let's see what happens in this chair here. "We're not doing enough for my son." Okay, now take a deep breath. Calm down. Count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I have an upset parent in front of me. He's reacting emotionally, but I don't want to react to him. I want to try and lower the level of the emotion in the conversation. I want to listen carefully. I want to find out what the facts are, but I have to calm down myself first. So I need some self-control, but I need a hand here. Here, my magic wand. This is a way that I can maybe create some space between his triggering me and my reaction, because I want to bring the best of myself to the situation. Try as much as possible to ask him some questions, to get some facts, so that we can work together here to find a solution. But the only way we can do that is by being rational and by controlling our emotions. Okay, and by staying curious. Right, I feel better now. Now, what is the animal here? Now, we're back in the savannah, and here this animal is extremely curious and very vigilant. It will spend sometimes 1 hour on sentinel duty. It's small, looking after its families, which are underground. Oh my goodness, Christine, that's amazing. Yes, and Chris, oh, look at you, you've all guessed it, meerkat. Absolutely right, fantastic. So we're in the meerkat chair. Let's go and have a look. Well done. At the slides, let's share that here. So we're in the wait chair. Now, here's the meerkat. What is the quote here? Amazing quote here. Everything can be taken from man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Now, this is very important, because here, the message is that whatever happens around us, the only freedom that we have, the only thing that we can do is choose ourselves what attitude we want to bring into the world. And now this is very important, because here, what we're trying to do is breathe, is to count, to calm down, so that we come into our rational mind, so that we can deal with the situation as best as possible. Because when we wait, when we pause, when we listen, when we explore, and when we check, then we can bring the best of ourselves into the world. Because what we're trying to do is this conscious pausing between the trigger and our reaction, so that we can be under control, so that we can observe and look around and see what our options are, and stay in curiosity. Now, that's not easy to do when somebody is attacking you and judging you. How good are we at thinking, okay, he's uncomfortable, he's reactive, but I want to stay curious. I want to open up the conversation. I want to look at multiple perspectives. That's the only way we can move forward, because in this chair, I always have a choice. If I go into the jackal chair, there will be consequences. And the same if I go into the yellow chair. So here, I'm trying to stay calm in order to have the best possible solution. Good. Now, you see, look at that. That's what we're doing. Chaos around us, but we're trying to stay as calm as possible. All right, now that we're calm, we can now, let's, what I want to do now is to stop sharing and show you what happens in the blue chair here. Okay, now we're in the same situation. What happens here? You're not doing enough for my child. Okay, first take a deep breath and calm down. Right. Now, it's really important for me that he understands that his child's well-being is very important for me, because just as all of the well-being of all the children that I deal with, it's important. He needs to know that I take my job extremely seriously, and that I have a lot of experience in the field. And that I also want him to understand that it's not an easy job, that every child is different with different needs. And it's very, very important, however, that we establish a kind of partnership together, so that we can explore the best way forward for his child and support the difficulties that they might be, but blaming is not going to help at all. We need to collaborate around the best way to move forward. So we need to concentrate on finding solutions together and keeping focus on that. But I really do want him to understand that I am the right person for the job and that I have a lot of experience to bring to the situation. So how am I behaving here? What can you see? What am I doing? What is my attitude? Sympathetic, there's communication. Yes. Yes, there's a bit of empathy as well. Understanding, I'm understanding too, but what about me as well? How am I coming across? I'm open, I'm collaborative, I'm proving myself. Yes, I'm talking about myself, validating myself. There's a bit of assertion. I'm being calm, but I'm not letting him walk all over me. I want to be positive in my approach. Exactly. Yes. I want to be professional. Exactly. I'm confident. This is very important. Yes. Sometimes, we feel we give up, but no, this is about me saying and reassuring him that I am the right person for the job. Well done. So this is confidence. Now, can you think of an animal, professional, knowledgeable? Absolutely right, Sylvia. Can you think of a creature in this chair who has extraordinary communication skills? This creature is extremely intelligent, very, very social, not a lion. No, it's not a lion, actually, because the lions sometimes can be very aggressive. This animal is hardly ever aggressive, has an enormous brain. The brain of this animal is the same size almost as ours. Interesting. Not an elephant, smaller. It's smaller. Remember, very sophisticated communication skills. A dolphin. Donna has got it. Absolutely right. So we're in and on. And the object of this chair is a mirror. Because here, what we do is, in this chair, we look at ourselves when we ask, how am I feeling in this situation with this parent? What do I need? What is important for me? And what is important for me is to make the person understand my value and my worthiness. So well done. Let's go back to the slides and check this out with the dolphin. So in the dolphin chair, which is the detect chair, because this is the chair of self-awareness. Now, Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. So when you know what your needs are, how you are feeling, and when you can describe that to other people and share that in a very calm way, then you create a lot of clarity around yourself and you become confident, you become assertive, but not aggressive. You know how to speak in the world in a clear, unambiguous way. And our mindset here is, we know what is important for ourselves here. We ask ourselves, what is important? What are my feelings? What are my needs? This is the self-awareness we're working on. And what is my responsibility here in this situation? How do I need to behave in order to make sure that we reach a solution together? And what action do I need to take? So you see that beautiful word, responsibility. In this chair, the dolphin chair, it is my ability to respond in an appropriate way to this situation, even though the parent, might be very upset with me. I'm not, emotions are very contagious. I'm not going to become the emotions of the other person. I want to stay steady. I want to stay in a responsible state where I am in control of myself, but I am also making the other person understand that I am the right person in the right place with the right responsibility to be talking to. So we're in the dolphin chair. Not easy that, when somebody is criticizing you or judging you. But what will help us to be a good dolphin and bring the very best of ourselves into the world is the last chair. Now, not an easy chair, this one. So let's move on. And well, actually, before we do that, let's just remind ourselves of what it is to be assertive. We are self-aware, we are responsible, it's our ability to respond. We are assertive but not aggressive. We speak up. We speak our truth in a genuine way, but we speak with clarity, so there's no ambiguity around us. And we are very much aware of our needs. So we don't use language of accusing language like, I'm right, you're wrong. We don't accuse other people. We talk about ourselves. Maybe we will say, when you say that, I feel a bit worried. So we don't blame another person for their behaviors, but we explain ourselves to other people. We're proactive and we're in positive intention in the dolphin chair. Great. So we're ready now to move into the top chair here. Let's see it. Now, here it is. You might be guessing already what it is. Now, the trigger again is the same. And it's, you're not doing enough for my child. Okay, take a deep breath, calm down. Right. Now, okay. I want to thank him for sharing his concerns, and I also want to recognize the discomfort that he is going through, because if I put myself in his shoes, there is nothing easy about being a parent today. There are parents juggling so many different things, and they need as much empathy as we do, because everybody is working too hard. So many people are stressed out. The situation today is becoming unsustainable. Parents get worried about their children's education. He's probably a very busy man. He maybe travels a lot for his job. He doesn't see his child enough. Maybe he feels impotent because he has no control. He feels he has no control over his schooling. So I need to show him some understanding here, and ask him what he needs, how he's feeling, what he needs, and what can I do in order to help him. So I want to show him that I'm committed to helping him, but also listen to him, allow him to get his emotions out, but I have to be patient, and proactive in my understanding and in my listening. Yeah, always with a deep breath. Thank you very much. So what sort of behavior are we showing in this chair here? Somebody's saying the lion, and no, it's not the lion. You're guessing the animal. We're talking about an animal which has the biggest heart of all land animals. Not passive. No, thank you, Gladys. We're not passive. We're trying to be empathetic. Yes, that's right. Empathetic. And you have already guessed it, Elsa. It is the giraffe. Exactly. It is the giraffe. Yeah, I wish all humans were like that too. Wouldn't that be great? Compassion. Absolutely. Why? Here we are. Why the giraffe? Because the giraffe has the biggest heart of all land animals, and it also has the longest neck, so it can see everything from above. So we are in the world of the giraffe. Absolutely great. Let's go and look at the slides here and the characteristics of the giraffe. So here we have the Connect chair. And the quote here is, I don't like that man, which you might often say about parents, but I must get to know him better. So here, what we're trying to do is we're asking ourselves the opposite of the dolphin is what's going on in them? How do they feel? What are their needs? What's important for them? And how can I help them or contribute to them? What can I do for us now? So here we're in full empathy. We're being aware of other people's needs. We're showing empathy. We're trying to understand their point of view. So we're listening very carefully. We want to know what their needs are because we want to try and help get their needs met. So we're being tolerant and patient. And we're all for inclusion here. So here are the 5 chairs. Now, what we're talking about here in the model is that in any moment, even when we're triggered, we have a choice. Yeah? Let's get the giraffe up too. Now, if we go into the jackal and the hedgehog chair, we know what happens. But what we're trying to do is stay curious and calm in the meerkat chair, and then activate both our assertiveness in the dolphin chair and our connection in the giraffe chair. Because this is where, when we connect to other people, we can build trust, and we can create an open communication. And when we are assertive, we are also protecting ourselves. So the idea of the 5 chairs is to invite you to think about where you are in any moment, and as much as possible to try and spend time in these 3 top chairs here, where we're being our very best in the world, and as much as possible to spend as little time as possible in the red chair and in the yellow chair, which usually creates some sort of separation. So I hope that that is of use to you. And what I'd like to do is, if you are interested in learning more about the 5 chairs, I do have a book called 5 Chairs, 5 Choices. Let me just come out of here. 5 Chairs, 5 Choices, which is on Amazon, which could help you, I hope could help you. I'll just put it in the, because I would really love to help you in every possible way, 5 Chairs, 5 Choices, to help yourselves and again, bring the very best of yourselves into the world in every moment with the most incredibly wonderful work that you do. So thank you so much. And what was it called? 5 Chairs, 5 Choices. That's it. So, Lorna, that is the message to all your wonderful, the people working in such an important field.
Louise, oh my, you can see the reactions, the applause, the hearts. Thank you so very much for a moving and empowering message. And I say moving not just for the words you shared, but for how you gave us all the charge of what we can do to make sure to assess where we are, what chair we're sitting in, as we have the honor of working and supporting children and families. Thank you so, so very much. Powerful message. Thank you, Louise. And again, you get the gold star for traveling the farthest. Thank you for joining us all the way from Italy. Thank you so much, Louise. Thank you.
Thank you, and goodbye, and good luck to everyone.
Thank you. Oh my. All right. Boy, that was something. You all are clearly showing your response to that. Thank you. And with that, let us continue to receive words of wisdom, words of influence. We are going to watch a brief video highlighting a voice from the field. We are honored to feature Diane Gazemba, who is Director of Early Childhood Initiatives at EastCon, and she's going to share some words of wisdom with us.
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Gazemba. I'm the Director of Early Childhood Initiatives at EastCon. It's a RESC in northeastern Connecticut, and I'm here today to talk to you about professional learning and the importance of it. First of all, what is it? Professional learning is ongoing opportunities for teachers, educators, administrators to really dive in and think about their knowledge, the skills that they possess, and practices that they're implementing and want to improve upon. So to me, professional learning is also really an opportunity to think and reflect about what we do, how we do it, and how can we improve so that we have better outcomes for kids. In my role as a TA provider, I'm a coach, mentor, trainer. One of the things I work really hard at doing is reflecting on when I've done something, how well it's gone, how people have responded, how I've engaged folks. And really how I show up is really important. So thinking about from the moment I enter a room, how I'm connecting with people, how I take time to greet them, how I take a moment to just assess, how's everybody feeling that day? And to start the day off together, rather than me as coming in as an outsider. I'm there to be with, to be present, and to work alongside with. I'm there to learn from others as they learn from me, and I'm also there to help others learn from who else is in the room. For me, that's really the essence of professional learning, creating communities where people who care and educate young children take the time to really dive into their own practices and consider shifts at times, depending upon what lens they might want to have. Having different perspectives and perspectives of other people is also really important. So when I think about what lens I'm coming in with as a coach, the lens I might have is I'm an observer, I'm an onlooker, and I'm a guest. How I show up and how the aura around me and how others might perceive me is really important. So I'm not there to intrude, I'm there to learn from, I'm there to guide. And funny thing is, kids will ask me all the time, hey, what are you doing? So when children see other people come into their classrooms, they're often wondering why they're there. And I just let them know I'm here to learn from you, and I'm here to see all the fun things you do at school so that you're learning, and I'm just really curious. So I like to use my curiosity as another mechanism to engage learners, the adult learners. So I'm really motivated. And so it's really interesting when I think how to motivate others, because I'm a lifelong learner. I love to learn. Give me a book, give me something to dive into. If I have an interest in a topic, I always willing to go deeper and deeper into the topic and learn more about it for myself. But what motivates me is that I can see over time relationships that I form with the adult learners that I work with who are supporting young children really, over time, become more reflective practitioners. And by doing so, they're actually changing the trajectory of the children's growth also, as well as their own learning. So I'm not there specifically to support the children. By supporting the adults, I'm supporting the children. And I really do notice a difference over time as I build stronger relationships with people. It doesn't happen day one. It happens over a series of time. So I often have coaching relationships with folks. So in a coaching relationship, it's not a one-time situation where you engage. It's multiple times that you meet and have conversations over a period of time based upon what that learner is interested in focusing on. And I love to support other people in their goals. And sometimes it's actually really helpful to have somebody who's not you. Just be the person that can help you reflect, hold up the mirror for them to look in and see what they see, and then notice what they can actually really do, because sometimes people don't recognize that. So really starting from their strengths.
Yes, thank you very much, Diane. Thank you so very much for the coaching and the mentoring you provide so many in the field. We appreciate you and all that you do. We now are honored to have our panel discussion, which will be led by Dr. Deb Adams. Deb will be facilitating this panel discussion, and she is an education consultant at the Office of Early Childhood. And pardon me as I'm fumbling through my words. That's only because it's coming from a place within the heart, not only for the admiration and respect for Deb, but also recognizing that as she prepares to start a new chapter in her life, we certainly want to recognize the contribution she has made to thousands of children and providers and families in the state of Connecticut for over 25 years. So Deb, just want to publicly say again, thank you so much for all that you do. Although you are transitioning away from OEC very soon, we know that your legacy will continue on. Passing the baton to you for our panel discussion.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much, Lorna. I appreciate that. So now it's out. Folks are now hearing that I'm transitioning out of the Office of Early Childhood, but I am not really going too far. So I am looking forward to supporting in the field everyone who will have me, who would like to have support. And that's what really a lot of this conversation is about. How can technical assistance providers, our trainers, our coaches, our mentors, help support the field in everything that they do? And I just want to say, in looking at that video, watching the video with Diane, big shout out to Diane. I reflected in the moment I think I've known Diane for probably about 25 years or so. And I think we've grown up together in the field in our different roles and cross paths here and there. But one of the most exciting paths I think we've tried to forge together and challenge each other on is this idea of ways of being. And when I think of Diane, I think of an essence. And I think you've seen in that video really who Diane is and what she would like to bring to others in the field and to share with our coaches and our trainers how to be yourself and be authentic and be in a way that supports so many other people to be the best they can be. And with Louise Evans providing our keynote, we have a new way of sort of looking at communication and reflection and being mindful of who we are in the moment and aspire to be in those yellow, blue, and green chairs and to be aware of when the red and yellow chairs creep up in our mind, what we would like to say sometimes to folks that might be challenging us, and how to maybe not go there, but go a different route. And so I'm so happy to be part of a panel discussion today with some of my favorite people in the world, Sue Vivian and Marina Rodriguez, and a new friend, Kate Sweeney. If they could come on and turn your cameras on and microphones, we're going to have a little chat. I wish I had a fireplace with some hot tea and cocoa where we could get together and sort of debrief this conversation and talk about your work through the lens of what we just heard. And so if we can imagine ourselves in that type of a setting to have this sort of cozy conversation and talk about your work in the lens of showing up in the best way you can in supporting others. So I'm going to just introduce each of you one at a time. And if you could just, tell us who you are and what your main line of work is and what drives you. What drives you to be in the role that you're in? Okay. Marina, I see your little square first. So I'm going to call on Marina first to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Deb. My name is Marina Rodriguez, and I am an education mentor coach at All Our Kin, a nonprofit that was born in New Haven, Connecticut, but now we operate nationwide, supporting many communities. We support and sustain family childcare, and so I've been doing that work. I've been working exclusively with family childcare for over 15 years and before that, I worked directly with families and children. So I've been in the workforce for over 25 years, coming in really young. And what do I do this work? I like to tell the story of when I started in the early childhood workforce. It was truly my son's Head Start teacher who invited me to volunteer. And it wasn't the first time, right? It wasn't the first day she invited me and I said yes. I was a very young parent, a student parent. And she insisted, and it was there that I began to grow as an individual. I began to grow as a parent. And I began to really understand the importance of early experiences. And I do this work because it's really connected to who I am as a person, and it's connected to my purpose in life. So thank you for that question.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that, Marina. We're going to dive more into this conversation once everyone's introduced themselves. Thank you. Kate, I see your little square up next. So Kate, could you introduce yourself and why you do what you do?
Thank you so much, Deb, and thank you both to you and to Lorna for the invitation to be on this panel and be part of this discussion today. My name is Kate Sweeney, and I co-lead the Parent, Infant, or Early Childhood, or PEAK work at UConn School of Social Work, and newly under the UConn and OEC partnership, I lead the team that gets to support pyramid model throughout the state. So I might be a new name or face to some of you, and if not, I hope to be one soon. And I am a clinical social worker by training. I have focused my career in early childhood and supporting parenting in both clinical, medical, and educational settings. And the thing that I love most about supporting interventions like the pyramid model is that it helps kids and families and providers in their natural community settings so that they don't have to end up seeking support for behavior in places like I used to work, which would be, highly intensive intervention clinics, which are needed, but so too is the supports within, classroom environments, within home daycare environments and other settings. So I really appreciate both on behalf of kids and families, but as well as the workforce to help them with strategies to support everyone to sit in the proper chair, to use our an analogy from the discussion earlier.
Thank you so much. And great tie-in, actually. We're going to kind of tie all back to Louise's work. Thank you so much for coming. And Sue, I see your square popped up. Tell us a little bit about why you do what you do and what you do.
So when you asked me that I was, asked me to be ready to be introduced and what I would like to say when I was being introduced, really made me think about who am I actually? And I wanted to be a teacher since I was in third grade. But it wasn't until high school, my senior year, I was all set to go to this, a big traditional college in Boston. And I had the opportunity to go with a friend and in February to his interview and to keep him company. And I said, I'm going to wander over here because I heard about this school that just focuses on early childhood. So I went to Wheelock for a tour, and we were walking in this big classroom building, and they took me up to the attic. And in the attic were these bins of nuts and bolts and feathers and wires. And I'm like, oh my God. It was my introduction to loose parts. I had never heard of that. I never thought of that. And of course, the date for accepting applications was the next day. So I ran to the admissions office. They put a little index card with my name on it in the box to hold my place. But when I think back, I think it was because I was curious about what kind of school that just focused on early childhood looked like, right? I was curious about that. And I took a leap, right? I was from this small community, Connecticut, and I took the leap. I went to Boston. I went to this new school. And it's the teacher that I became, right? I became a second grade teacher, a kindergarten teacher, preschool teacher. I did home childcare with my 3 boys. I was a director of a family resource center. And now I'm currently doing training and coaching. But the teacher I am and the person I am is because I was curious when I was 18. So I think I really I know Louise and other people, Deb, you mentioned it too, about the curiosity piece and I think that helps me get settled. We can talk about this later, but that really helps me get settled when I'm with someone. But I'll let you start with the questions you have for us.
Oh no, that's great. That's a perfect lead in. And when I think of you, soon, I think I've known you as long as for Diane. I think about maybe not quite 20 years, but when I think of you, I think of curiosity. You're always challenging us to be curious and in examining our questions about ourselves and about how to work with young children and families in a deeper way. Not just why, but why not. And in a different way. And so that's, I totally appreciate that about you. So, in listening to Diane's video and to the wonderful presentation of the 5 chairs by Louise Evans, I took notes, right, in all my papers as I usually do, and I drew a little picture, and a lot of words just sort of started to pop up. Reflection in the moment, self-awareness, right? That kept coming up for me. And I remember in my earlier days of of presenting, I used to say to folks, you know, it's really hard when you're in a moment to look at yourself from outside yourself in the moment. So how do you do that, and what does self-awareness really mean? And so I love Louise's tact at bringing a scenario and carrying that through. And I think we've all been there where a parent or a colleague has sort of been in our face or presented something, and your first thought might not be what you want to say, but you hold that thought and not necessarily say it. And I always call it the mini me on my shoulder. It's like in that moment, I'm thinking this, but I'm also talking to the mini me on my shoulder. Calm down, be that detector, be more self-aware of things. And so to kind of launch into our first little discussion, what, how did you develop this self-awareness that embodies you? Because the thread between the three of you that I wrote down was helping people, supporting others, being human, wanting to learn from others. That's really part of you, right? But you have to have a high level of self-awareness about who you are in order to help others to see themselves in who they are. So if we can dive into that a little bit, how did you develop your own self-awareness, and how are you helping others to be self-aware? So I don't want to call on one or the other. So please just jump in and let's just have a chat while we're sipping our cocoa and tea.
So recently I've been thinking about the idea of flow. You know, like when you're in a flow or you're in a zone and things just like kind of go, and everything, the gears are all working and everything is going right, whether it's you're working with a person or you're working with a child or you're presenting something, everything is working right. It's like you could almost see what's going to happen next before it happens. You're in that magical place. And I was thinking, okay, I want to like deconstruct that. What is actually happening? Why does that happen? Right? So I was thinking about, you know, artists talk about it. You know, you can see athletes, you actually can see it visually happening in front of you. But I think, so it's content and skill, and I think it's practice, right? I think those are there, but there's something else. I think there's something else. And I listened to this Wayne Gretzky. He was talking about hockey, and people would call him a genius, right? He's a genius as a hockey player. And he said, I'm not a genius. It's not that. It's that when I was a kid, I would watch a hockey game, and I would be curious about why the hockey puck would hit the board at a certain way and where it would go. So where it hit, how fast it was, and where it was going. And I was thinking, and he said, so it's not genius. It's just that I wanted to figure it out. I was curious. I wanted to figure it out. So then I'm thinking, okay, so it's content, skills, practice, and then being curious, and then, oh, wait a minute, it's persistence, and then it's being flexible. Oh, we're talking about the essential dispositions, right? So it's about a disposition for being ready to learn and be willing to try something new and to take a risk in learning. So how do I do that? And how do I help others, whether it's a child or whether it's an adult, whether it's a partner, you know, a colleague? How does that happen? And I find with me, the curiosity centers me. So like if I'm sitting with Marina and we're having a conversation, I'm like, how do you work? How does your brain work? What are you interested in? Wow, I'm really interested in you. And all of a sudden, I feel like I'm in this different place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in just really calm, still. I really want to figure you out. I want to know you. And so I feel like that can help me. It might not help other people, but that does help center me. And then asking those questions of that person. So that happened. What did you notice? What happened when you did that? Wow. You know, just getting them to be that in that curious place really seems to have that flow happen in conversations for me.
That's great. And conversation's a big part of it, you know. And so, Kate, I know in your pyramid work, right? And in the idea of the pyramid work and social emotional development, you know, that's not just about young children. That's about all of us.
Absolutely. I often say that adults are just tall kids, that they need the very same things, consistency, predictability, relationships, all the things that we know support those things in kids. And I appreciate you saying that, Deb, because as we were going through the chairs, I was thinking, wouldn't it be so great if adults in the moment, right? So she was describing a parent and who I thought of as a teacher. But what if adults in the moment when a child was having a hard time thought about what chair are they in right now? How do I understand like where I am, where this other adult is, and where this child is, to sort of just, again, slow all of that responsiveness down or reactiveness. And Sue, I love the way that you just described your sort of internal framework and curiosity for reflection. And we're so appreciative of people like you that naturally have that. I think one thing that I've learned through Pyramid and other things is the value of having someone like Sue or Marina's team come in as a coach to be that reflective person for someone, because often it takes someone else, especially when we're having a hard time, right? We can tell you the parts that aren't going well, but it can be hard to see the full picture. So to have a coach come in with that reflective framework and to be able to sort of point out the openings that they see or the possibilities, and what seat we might be sitting in when we think we're presenting as calm, but we're not. And to be open to that. I have a good colleague who says, you know, you never outgrow brushing your teeth, right? So you never outgrow the need to have supervision or to have a check-in sometimes, especially when in those hard moments, to say, this happened, I didn't know what to do, or I didn't like how I responded. So the value of having a coach or a supervisor or a colleague that you can get honest reflection back from and integrate it. And the last thing I'll say, Deb, is that no conversation is ever complete, right? You can always go back and revisit it if there's the opportunity to do that. And often, if you're either the person doing that or the person receiving that, and that effort for repair, that can be much more meaningful than having the right thing to say in the moment.
That's a great point, you know, about the conversation. And it's a give and it's a take, and conversations evolve, right? And nothing's ever really done, you know. And Marina, I think we met first when you were coaching in family childcare, and we were looking for someone to shoot video, to be the star of a video, a coach in a family childcare space, and voila, we found Marina, and boy, we've never let go, because what I see in you is that natural ability to have those conversations and bring out in someone else an awareness about their own practice that maybe they didn't notice before, because it takes someone else to notice it. But you don't necessarily tell them what they did. They come to realize it through the way that you communicate. And I love that about you. So could you tell us a little bit about your level of self-awareness and how you created that art of just being able to pull things out of others?
Thank you for that. First, I want to give a shout out to all the family childcare educators that are on the call. There's so many. So happy that you're here. That's awesome. Deb, also, I think I met you in my first ever, I know you don't remember this because you know, you're Deb Adams, but in my first ever adult learning theory, way before the video, I was like, oh my God, I want to learn so much from this woman. So I think like really that's one of the things that helps me learn, is that I don't close myself out to thinking that I've learned it all. Everywhere I go, everywhere I sit, every interaction that I have, I am curious like Sue, and also just consuming everything that I could be consuming from that interaction. And I wasn't always as self-reflective as I am today. That is the truth. You know, I grew up in a very disadvantaged community. I grew up in a single parent household. I grew up with a lot of adversity in my life. I grew up with experiencing a lot of community violence. And so I also grew up very cautious in fight or flight or fawn. And fawn was usually my go-to when I was in a deep state of trauma. I would just fall back, I would freeze, or I would just try to, placate. And it wasn't through my journey of my professional journey to really sitting with people like you, people like Sue, people, other women, because they have been primarily women in my life, that I began to really absorb these ways of being. And so for me, that parallel process is true. Like, I've lived the parallel process. I live learning through osmosis, right? I've lived learning through deep, profound conversations that maybe move away a little bit from all the frameworks. I know that there's a lot of value in things like the 5 chairs that we learned about today, or things like ruler that give definition, and it gives an icon, and it helps different learners learn. And then there's learners like me that truly learn through the depths of the conversation, truly learn through relationships. And I think, just to wrap it up quickly, it's been in me really looking to learn from that human that's in front of me, that I've been able to expand myself and to move from all of the ways that I used to be that were really survival ways.
Fantastic. And I see a through thread, here about just this connection with people, and conversation comes up again, and being curious. And I love, Kate, your thinking about, children in the chairs, right? And asking those questions, and I, not to kind of like relive and bring things up, but I know that the past years have been difficult, for everyone in some way, for many in ways that some of us can't even comprehend. People have lost people, people are still in a state of trauma. And how do we come out of that without connecting, right? And I think we've lost a sense of connection along the way. I mean, we're connecting now on Zoom with 180 people, and I hope that through these conversations, we're making a connection in some way by being authentic and sharing our stories, and telling people that they too can look within themselves and be reflective, and think about their practice and how they react. And so I know that there's been some point, probably sometime, maybe more than one in your life, I can count more than one in my life, where there's been challenges in relationships, either with some of the families that I've been involved with, sometimes with the children that I've been involved with. Can't quite get through here to have this relationship. And it's difficult when you have sometimes a working relationship with peers, and you can't get through and kind of feel that you are valued or feel that you are heard. And I know that you're in programs and working with others. Can you think of a case where you felt that maybe you weren't at your best because of a challenge with the relationship, but needed to be at your best because they needed you to be at your best? To reflect on a moment like that, and how did you sort of pull yourself out of it so that you could show up for them because they needed more?
I'll share.
I know it's deep here, but you know.
I'll share quickly an experience that I had when I first was getting my feet wet into the mentor coaching. I had been coaching for a while directly. Then I moved into this mentor coach space, maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. And I remember I was coaching with this person, and the way that I was approaching the relationship was not in alignment with their personality. And the language that I would use would oftentimes for them feel triggering. And there was one time that I think I used the phrase "tell me more" or something, and this person like just roar, this is not therapy, don't use that language on me. And I like my voice started quivering. I sensed the nervousness inside of me, and that was before I started to do somatic work. But because now, if that were to happen to me now, I would say, "Oh wow, this is what I'm feeling in my body right now. It's how my body is telling me and sensing what's happening right now for me." And I didn't have that language then. And so I retracted, I apologized, and I asked, was there other language that I can use in this relationship? And then the conversation came to a close. And this person and I continued to work together. And so much shifted in our relationship, that later, when our work was done, they sought me out to sit down and have a conversation. And to this day, that gives me chills, because I didn't give up on the continuing the connection, right? I didn't give up, and maybe that was a learning for me, right? Like, I need to understand what language I'm using with whom. I'm using language, where do they come from? Like, I need to like stay open and present and growing through that. So that's definitely a story that stays with me and they resonates.
Fantastic. You're able to actually ask. Sometimes I don't think we really feel that we can ask others, well, what would be more helpful? Yeah, what to unpack the situation, right? Kate or Sue?
Yeah, I'll add quickly, just to ask, and also like to repair. And I didn't repair it explicitly, right? Like, I didn't take that time to repair on that call. That call needed to do what it needed to do. The repair came after.
Nice. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you added that, Marina, because it's not about, I think a theme that comes up often is that we lose the reflective capacity we have when we're being overly reactive and trying to find the thing to say in the moment. And sometimes space and returning is really much more impactful for both ends. Deb, as soon as you asked your question, an incident came to mind immediately, which was, and then Marina, as you were talking, probably 4 more others came in as well. So I think one of the things that I've learned about being a practitioner in this work, leaning on reflection, is that humility is a strength, right? So I've had many instances where I've professionally had to readjust my approach or consider my approach, and I've learned from every single one of them. But the first one that came to mind, Deb, and my oldest is now in 6th grade, so this is a while back. But I was working within a medical clinic at Hopkins in Baltimore, Maryland, providing supports to new parents. I had just returned to work, 3 short months after having my firstborn. And there was a baby that was born on the same day as her, at the same weight. And when I went in to see him, he was far smaller, and him and mom were struggling far more than the little one that I had left at daycare, maybe, for the first time a few weeks prior to that. And I remember I was so activated by this, because I was like, thinking so much of my little one and what she was doing, and how can I help this mom and him get to that same place. And And I overstepped because I was so activated, right? And so the need for me to kind of understand how can I be most effective, and that's not pulling in every resource. That's understanding first where this family is, what they need, and in the many conversations that I was recalled by in Marina's discussion, it was the same thing in working with educators and childcare providers and family home providers. It's following and understanding where they are and what their locus of concern is first, and meeting them there. And so often that's slowing down, and that's giving them space to talk and understand. How can I be helpful? How can I be supportive? What is their ask? What have they already tried? What is their perspective of the concern? Yeah, so just the benefit of reminding myself regularly to slow down.
Yeah, yeah. So living in those green, yellow,
Yeah.
blue chairs and thinking about detecting all of that. And I love that perspective came up, right? Like really stepping back, and other people have other perspective. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sue?
So I think this is connected actually to the pyramid work a little bit, in that when I started thinking about this question, I recognized that when I first started teaching in 1977, we didn't teach emotions or social skills or friendship skills. We just wanted kids to behave and be nice and follow directions. And I have content I have to get to you, right? But I think we've learned, thank goodness, we should have knew this, but we know that these are skills that we can teach and we can learn and we can practice. Um, just like any other skills and things we want to get better at. And I think that that kind of happened to me when I first started the coaching, in that um, I would come across a situation and there was something going on and the teacher wasn't present, wasn't ready to be present. And I said, oh, no problem. I really respect that happened. Hey, let's just do a new time. Wait, Tuesday, and I'd be right into the work mode, right? I'd be right into, oh, I totally get it. That's no problem. Let's do a different time for you. Instead of, what I learned to do is, how are you? Right? How are you? Are you okay? And then be okay with that. So my old Sue was like, we didn't teach that. We didn't talk about that. And my new Sue was, I want to know how you are. Are you okay? And then getting into balancing, you don't want it to be a therapy session, right? But balancing, I need to support you. How can I support you? Where are you? Exactly, Kate, meeting people where they are, right? We have to start there. If we don't start there, it's really inefficient work and it's really not kind, and we're not going to have any learning happen. But meeting people where they are, and then thinking about a partnership, rather than I'm here to give you information, but we're a partnership working and learning together. And when I started doing that, everything was just deeper. Everything was just deeper and nicer, and I don't know, worked faster. It was all these good things just because I asked, how are you?
Yeah, totally agree. People ask me, how are you? And I think most people say that phrase, how are you, and expect, oh, fine, good. But you know what? I answer. And sometimes my days aren't so good, so I don't think they're expecting that. But, I go down a little the litany, of things every once in a while. And I think it's important that we all recognize everyone's human. Okay. We all have bills to pay. We all, are trying to live the dream we have. We're all trying to work hard. We're all human. We all have feelings. And I think the wonderful thing that in working with all of you, and in working with, new professional technical assistance providers that are coming into the field, is taking this human-centered approach. We all grow, right, as human beings. And this work isn't just about throwing out the next best thing since sliced bread, and the professional learning is all about the content and do X, Y, Z. And do these three things today, and the world will be a better place. But wait, next week, 3 more things come out, right? And the world will be even a better place. So if we all take a step back and say, hey, can we slow down and really reflect about our life in relationship to the work that we do? Because work and life are together They really aren't all that separate, but your whole life is not just about your work. You breathe life into your work. And if you're not well in your life, your work isn't going to be well. You know, so I thank you so much for sharing, you know, the few questions that I had. And in the last few minutes that we have left, I wonder if you have words of wisdom. All right. So we've got an audience out there of still, I think, about, well, most people have stayed on. That's great. You know, 175 people. That's fantastic. So, you know, words of wisdom for people out there who are saying, hey, I really want to be more self-aware about me, right? In order so that I can show up and be better for kids and for families. What would be your words of wisdom for them? And even words of wisdom for people who are thinking, hey, I want to be a coach or a mentor or a trainer at some point. You know, what words of wisdom would you say how they need to be better for others? So just take a second and think about your words of wisdom. And it's never a done conversation, remember. You know I'm going to come back to this at some point, right? And kind of like take notes on this. Think about that for a second.
I'll kick us off. I like to think about my work through these words of Jerry Paul. And she used to say, do unto others as you would have them do unto others. And it helps me think about that parallel process continuously. How am I showing up in this relationship? How am I modeling ways of being so that that is actually lifting and inspiring this person that's in front of me to be in other ways of being, to have a new way that maybe hasn't been modeled for them before in their life, have a new way of being. So do unto others as you would have them do unto others. And then the other thing for me is that it's about the process, right? We use this a lot in art, in early childhood experiences. Children learn through the process. We set them up so that that we're learning with them through the process. Relationships are also about the process. It's about what we're learning through the process. So release a little bit of how much you want the outcome, but just be present in that process.
Thank you, Maria. Yes, that's wise. Process. I am very much a process person, to a fault, mostly. But yeah, people pay attention to just learn from the process and see the process in relationships. Thank you so much. Wise words. Sue or Kate?
So I was thinking about, I think it was Louise had mentioned about being contagious, right? That the emotions can be contagious. And I think that kind of leads and connects to what you were saying, Marina, about the doing unto others. So the idea of who I am and when I'm present for someone is contagious. If I'm excited and motivated and curious about learning and wonder about nature or whatever, it's contagious. So thinking about how I am present is that modeling, but it's also that contagion that we can spread.
Yeah, the modeling. Absolutely. Be who you want to be. Model that. Yeah. Yep. Kate.
I think just one word, curiosity, that, you know, often I think there's so much pressure that comes into these scenarios when we think that we have to have the thing to say to that dad in the scenario that Louise shared, or the thing to say in that coaching conversation that Marina mentioned. And it's really letting go of the outcome, focusing as both of my panelist colleagues said today about process, which means calming ourselves to do that. And that so often that will free up space for the capacity that's in the other person.
Fantastic words of wisdom. Free up the space. You know, sometimes it's your head space and sometimes it's your heart space, right? You know, you got to be there for people, body and soul. It's not just the head space that you're there for them, right? For everybody, it's also being heartfelt. And people can tell when you're not authentic, and people can really tell. And so, you know, I think any words of wisdom I may have, usually I like to do quotes, but I won't do a quote this time. It really goes back to open up the conversation. Just start talking. You know, sometimes it starts in your head. I'm famous for talking to myself. I get great advice that way. But, you know, if I only talk to myself, I'm not going to see other people's perspective. And that's dangerous. So you've got to take in other people's perspective and have those conversations so that you can be a good learner for the rest of your life. And just being by open, being honest, and just sort of like showing up in the best way that you can and living in those yellow, green, and blue chairs, and realize that the red, right, the red chair and the yellow chair do pop up. Um, it's okay. Be aware. We all have jackal feelings every once in a while. Don't we know it, right? But we can get into the blue. We can get into I love the giraffe. I try to take perspective. So thank you so much for being a part of this panel conversation. And thank you again, Lorna, for pulling this all together. And Louise, if you're still on the call, thank you so much for bringing that to us. And I bet that there are going to be people out there curious about your materials. We've started to grapple and use some of the framework of your materials in some of our technical assistance provider meetings. So I know if any of them are on this call, that they are aware of your work. And I hope that we can continue along those roads and use this work to our advantage in helping people to show up and realize when you're showing out to be reflective and come back in and have those conversations. So thank you so much for having me facilitate this wonderful panel, and wish everybody out there well. Be well out there. Thank you, Lorna.
Oh, Deb, many, many, many thanks to you for encouraging and inspiring such a thought-provoking, robust discussion. Thank you so very much, Deb, for facilitating our panel discussion. And of course, thank you, Sue, Marina, and Kate, for your wonderful words of wisdom. I'm really making sure to take the words of advice that you have suggested in terms of those lessons learned, in terms of the process, in terms of being contagious, being curious. And as you said, Deb, opening up the conversation, but being mindful of what's in our head and our heart. Thank you so very much. And with that, want to certainly recognize all that have played a role in this wonderful webinar experience. Thank you so very much, Diana Reyes, for giving us our interpretation instructions. And of course, thank you, Sasha and Paola, for providing interpretation. You're representing NWI. Thank you so very much. Of course, our acting commissioner, Elena Trueworthy, thank you very much for your wonderful warm welcome to us. And of course, Louise Evans, many, many, many thanks to you for your wonderful message to us all. And we certainly want to remember to wait and sit in that green chair, and detect while in the blue chair, and to connect via the purple chair. Thank you so very much for your wonderful, powerful words. And of course, Diane Gazemba, thank you for sharing your professional voice from the field and mentoring and coaching so many. Deb Adams, once again, thank you again for facilitating, and will refuse to say goodbye to you. Just going to say see you later. And again, Sue Vivian, Marina Rodriguez, Kate Sweeney, thank you so much again for being a part of our panel and helping to make it quite an enriching experience. And certainly also want to thank many teammates we have behind the scene. Jen Ide, thank you for managing all things Zoom related. Also want to thank Graphics by Jules, Team O'Donnell, and our UConn School of Social Work Innovations Institute for collectively supporting, that is the video vignette editing, webinar support, recording, and our webinar surveys. And please be on the lookout for the surveys at the conclusion of this webinar. We certainly want to receive your suggestions and your food for thought as we continue to move ahead with our webinar. So please be on the lookout for the link for the surveys. But with all of those names shared, most importantly, want to thank each and every one of you who is viewing this webinar, whether you're viewing it live or recording. We thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to recognize the power of checking in with ourselves, of seeing how am I showing up? How am I supporting those who I'm honored to serve and support as far as our children and providers and family members? We cannot do this work alone. We need to make sure to support one another, and we thank you for all that you do in supporting us. Until we connect again, bless you all. Thank you all so very much, and be well.